papers, the journalists, Afua Hagen and Thomas Copeland. Lovely to see you both again, guys. Afua, to you first. I have to admit, this is a story which has really got to me. Child Q, we've been reporting about it this morning. The treatment that she received at the hands of the police in the United Kingdom in the 21st century is frankly disgusting.
I could not agree with you more. As a black woman, as a mother, and as a mother of a child who goes to school in Hackney, I have never been so disgusted and shocked to read anything in my life that this 15-year-old girl who was menstruating at the time was forced to strip starch, was forced to spread her legs, was forced to take off her pad because a teacher suspected that she had cannabis on her. The teacher smelled it on her, could not find it in her clothes, in her scarf, then called the police, and the police came, took her into a classroom without an appropriate adult and stripped searched her in such a degrading fashion while she was menstruating. Now, we know that the police officers are now they're being looked into, their conduct is being looked into, and the teacher that called the police at that school in Hackney has been sacked. Over 9,000 children have been strip searched in this fashion by police up and down the country, some of those under 12 and some of those without an appropriate adult. And the other factor in this is that the report of this, which actually happened in 2020, so we're only finding out about this now, the report says that race was a factor. Now, we can go on and say that institutionalized racism does not exist in the police service, but frankly, it is endemic. It's endemic that this would happen to a young black girl. When our children go to school, they are supposed to be safe. They are not supposed to be in a situation where they can be strip searched because someone suspects that they smell cannabis or for any reason at all. It is disgraceful, it's disgusting that this happens in 2022 to anyone, never mind a young black girl. Now, we had protests at the school yesterday. Some of the students spoke so powerfully and beautifully about why they were protesting, about why they were refusing to go back to classes. The students standing up and saying, it doesn't matter if this is my sister or my brother. You know, the fact that this happened at all is disgraceful. There's going to be more solidarity marches for Child Q and their family carrying on this weekend across Hackney. And also Child Q and her family are suing the police service and also the school, which is the right way forward. But this should never, ever happen again to any child.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, bad enough that the Met behaved in this way, but where on earth was the safeguarding lead from the school? That's what I really don't understand in this story. Thomas, take us to the front of the Telegraph. A long video chat took place yesterday between President Biden and President Xi Jinping. One wonders, though, what the what the outcome of that will be, because frankly, you know, China could very easily assist Vladimir Putin.
Well, that's been one of the outstanding questions from the war in Ukraine so far. What will the reaction be of the world's other massive superpower in the form of China? Xi Jinping keeping his cards very close to his chest. The readout from Washington after that 2-hour call described the call as frank and candid, which in diplomatic terms it means that it was probably furious. So far, Biden is warning, and it's pictured here on the front page, or illustrated here on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, that there will be consequences for China if it decides to throw its weight behind Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. In response to Chinese claiming that the US was responsible for the conflict, they saying that he who tied the bell to the tiger must take it off, seemingly a reference to the fact that the UK has been involved, the USA has been involved in military training and funding for the Ukrainian army since 2014. As the Russian advance into Ukraine has stalled and altogether does not appear, as we were just hearing from your interview before this segment, does not appear to be going nearly as well as the Russians might have hoped, it looks increasingly likely that they will be trying to turn to Beijing, both in the form of military aid, military equipment, but also to try to circumvent some of these economic sanctions that have crippled the Russian economy up till now. The Chinese, on the other hand, are not foolish, and they will look at this in a realpolitik sense. They will realise, on one hand, it is not in their interest to see the West united, and also Russia's or Putin's actions in Ukraine mirror fairly closely those territorial ambitions of the Chinese in Taiwan, for example. But, on the other hand, the Chinese realise that they do not want to throw their weight behind a losing battle. It's not in their interest. And Russia really is not a significant economic partner for the Chinese in the long term. If anything, if Russia managed to get significant support from Beijing, it would likely come with such stringent conditions that for the time being, Russia will become vassal state of the Chinese. That isn't really in any of these parties' interest. So I think it's increasingly likely that you'll see the Chinese just staying silent. They have no real motivation to throw their weight behind the US and the West either. So this is going to be a major question going forward. What will the Chinese do? Nothing really coming out of this phone call for now. The Chinese staying silent at the moment, but keep an eye on that, because that could majorly change the direction of this conflict.
For your next story is inside the Express, and yeah, we all need a bit of good news these days, and we got it, didn't we, with the release of Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe and indeed others from Iranian detention. But it appears that Channel 4 have rather stolen the march on everyone else on this story.
Well, absolutely. This was the good news story of the week, the release of Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe after being imprisoned in Iran since 2016. So Channel 4 seem to have snapped up the rights to make a documentary about what happened to Nazanin, and it's going to focus on what happened to her time in prison, but also on her husband Richard and their daughter Gabriella, and their struggle to keep up the fight for Nazanin, to keep her name in the news, and to get her freed. So that's going to be the focus of the documentary, and I'm sure it's something that everybody would want to see. I definitely would want to watch that. But it's also worth noting this morning that one of Nazanin's colleagues, who she was imprisoned with, Morad Baz, in fact, was released on furlough the same day as her and her other colleague who flew back with her. So 3 of them were released on that day. Nazanin and her colleague landed back in the UK. Now, the other British-Iranian national, Morad Baz, has actually been taken back to jail in Iran. He was released for 2 days on furlough. Not quite sure what that means, but it seems that this weekend we had the devastating news, or his family did, that he has in fact been taken back prison. So, unfortunately, not all a good news story, and I hope the campaigning for his release continues and the Foreign Office keep applying pressure there as well.
Tom, I don't know if you, like me, enjoy just a little drop of gin from time to time. It makes the tears come a little bit too quickly, but, well, if you're paying £30,000 for a bottle of it, yeah, I'd be crying my way all the way to the bank.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much is a drop of whiskey, a drop of gin when it's £30,000 per bottle. I don't know. The previous record for gin is £3,800, so significant ginflation. The terrible pun that we're faced with in the headline there. That said, I mean, I think this is slightly cheating actually, because the gin itself gin only takes about a year to make. Yeah. What makes this bottle really expensive is it's a bespoke crystal bottle, 8 glasses apparently made by craftsmen, 80 hours dedicated to each of them. The case itself is made of leather, it takes about 2 months to make. So I'm not sure actually if you're really paying £30,000 for the gin, or whether you're paying £30,000 for a bottle, a case, and 8 glasses. That said, I suppose the good story of all this is that the money will be going to humanitarian efforts in Ukraine, so I can't really be too snooty about it. If you have £30,000 to spend on gin, I guess the better way to spend it is in a way that will support humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. So I can't criticise that much, but certainly, anything over, a £5 for me.
I can just see you down the playground with your 4 cans of cider, Thomas, enjoying yourself. Guys, we are going to leave it there, but you're back for another round of the papers in the 8 o'clock. We will see you then. But for the rest of us, let us just reflect on what we have been hearing from in and around Ukraine over the past 24 hours. The Russian Defense Ministry saying that they have the radio reconnaissance centres of Ukraine's military have now been destroyed. We've been seeing the Russians talking an awful lot more about what they've been managing to achieve with their kinetic activity, given that the Ukrainians appear to have been in the ascendant. After the break, I'll be joined by the Shadow Defence Secretary John Healey and the Conservative Party co-chair Oliver Dowden.